Our next speaker is Jim Jeffries. Jim was the 2018 IEEE President and CEO. He's a retired AT&T and Lucent Technologies executive who in 33 years rose from manufacturing engineer to vice president. He worked directly with the Bell Labs teams that developed fiber optic cables and also served as a logistics vice president responsible for worldwide supply chains, quality assurance, and export planning. I had the pleasure of having Jim officiate at a IEEE milestone dedication for Shaky the Robot about 2.5 years ago at the Computer History Museum. Who was there at that event? Excellent. That was a really fun event. We had like about 10 people from the team that had built this first mobile intelligent robot that's had an impact on the world, including Google Maps. Any kind of mapping techniques you use right now has its basis in what was developed from Shaky the Robot. Really interesting stuff. So, glad to have you here, Jim. Take it away.
Well, thank you. I wanted to talk briefly tonight about the legacy of history at IEEE, since we're celebrating historic events. Now, before I do that, I just wanted to talk about IEEE just for a minute. You know, IEEE today, for those of you that may not know IEEE, is the world's largest technical professional organization. Our mission is advancing technology for humanity. And we do this through our members. IEEE is a volunteer-led, staff-supported organization. And we do this through our members who are engaged in learning, they're engaged in teaching, they're engaged in practicing, they're engaged in innovating, and they're engaged in advocating for technology. Now, today's IEEE is defined by a great geographic reach, 400,000 members all around the world, by technical breadth in the many societies, leading journals, publications, and conferences, and standards. It's also defined by increasing social impact in public policy, humanitarian activities, the development of ethics, so much importance is growing in that today, and also the continuing education of our members. I want to return to the history for just a minute. You know, IEEE's legacy goes back to this story of innovation that goes back to 1884, when Edison and Alexander Graham Bell and some others responded to an ad in a trade publication in New York City and decided to form the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. They were concerned about this nascent profession called electrical engineering, and they were concerned about how power was going to be possibly deployed to an entire country and how communications might happen for a whole population in the United States. These were the things that drove them to come together. So they formed the Institute, and the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. In 1912, the radio engineers did a similar thing. So the Institute of Radio Engineers was formed in 1912. The next big step was, well, now we can connect the whole world together with wireless communications. And those two groups fostered, continued to be a part of the history of technology. And then in 1963, 56 years ago, IEEE was formed by the merger of those two organizations. So IEEE has always had a strong legacy in history. What are the benefits of preserving history? Well, I think there are a lot of benefits in preserving the history. It certainly goes to increasing the public understanding of the impact that engineers and scientists have, both on daily life and the total advancement of society. It also goes to the importance associated with image of the profession, growing the strength of the profession, encouraging people to become part of the profession and growing forward. And it also enhances the images and preserves so many things. So if we have a legacy in history at IEEE, there's a good reason to preserve history. What can a professional society like IEEE do about that? Well, we have an IEEE History Center. You've already heard it mentioned this morning. The History Center is funded by our IEEE Foundation and is fully staffed and permanent. And in our History Center, we basically have this mission of preserving, researching, and promoting the history of technology. We do that through a number of different ways. We have staff historians on site. We partner with Stevens Institute of Technology, where the History Center is located. And all the things that are listed here, oral histories, collecting of information, archiving of documents. And we also have the Engineering, Technology, and History Wiki, ethw.org. Where you can see many documented stories about the history of technology. And we do that not just by ourselves, we do it in conjunction. You heard just a minute ago about other societies. We have included in there the mechanical engineers, the chemical engineers, the civil engineers, Women in Engineering, Society of Women Engineers, the mining engineers, the petroleum engineers, in a consortium. And so we're very focused on preserving history and keeping that going. We also keep the archives of IEEE. IEEE. It's very interesting to go to the basement of our headquarters building in Piscataway, New Jersey, and maybe you can ask the historian there to open up the logbook where you can see Edison's signature as member number 234. And it looks like he paid his dues on time, as near as I can tell. So we have this incredible archives, incredible growth of a history wiki going on, and this is what we're really all about in our History Center. We also do a milestone program. We're celebrating one tonight. As mentioned earlier, number 198. The milestone program began in 1983 as part of IEEE's centennial year, our own 100th birthday at IEEE. And since that time, in that 35-year period, we've dedicated 198 milestones. They span more than 3 centuries of technological progress, beginning with Benjamin Franklin's experiments in electricity in 1751, all the way up through 20th century achievements. And we continue to grow the number that is out there. So milestones give us this chance to mark the path of progress and to, again, do all the things that preserving technology and preserving history can help with. We also sometimes do special programs. This year we are doing a special program commemorating human space travel. Obviously this is the 50th anniversary of the Apollo landings, so human space travel in a bigger context, a special resource here to collect information from our members who have been a part of that. Oral stories, any artifacts that are appropriate, and of course these 2 milestones, including the one we'll celebrate tonight, and papers and things. So we continue to work on special projects. We also have an IEEE REACH program. You know, the IEEE REACH program stands for Realizing Engineering Through the Conduit of History. And this is a series of programs that we put together that are designed for late middle school and high school students to talk about the history of technology, lesson plans for teachers, support games and programs that can be operated, as well as support materials, with the goal of introducing the next generation, to the opportunities that might exist for a STEM education and a STEM career. So these are the kinds of things that the History Center can do. And of course, we can all get involved here. We can certainly propose and develop milestones. I mentioned IEEE is very much volunteer-led. Our volunteers are the ones who identify the milestones, nominate the milestones, provide the documentation to support the milestone, run it through the history committee that reports directly to our board of directors and can lead up to this excellent documenting of the long-term impact of history. We can also do a selfie. You can post a selfie to anytime you go by a milestone plaque. If you want to take a selfie, we have an address. You can send it in. We'll be glad to put it up on the website. And you can look through those. So you can do a selfie. You can also contribute your story to the Engineering Technology and History Wiki. If you look at that site, it has a lot of information on it, and it's just fun to kind of go through and just hit things that might be of interest to you. And finally, you can support the IEEE Foundation, which funds much of our historic work. So that's a connection between IEEE and history, and we're proud to support the Milestones program and glad to be a part of this evening's event. Thank you.